We are planting our analysis today right in the heart of, well, the global financial world, New York City. I mean, this is a $1.7 trillion GDP powerhouse. It functionally rivals entire nations.
Absolutely.
But right now, this, ultimate capitalist city is facing a pretty monumental internal debate. It's about socialism.
Right.
And the question we are extracting from all your source material is sharp. Can policies like progressive taxes, aggressive regulations, can they fundamentally compromise the Big Apple's economic engine?
That really is the core conflict driving the whole narrative we're seeing. And our mission today is, well, precision.
Right.
We need to cut through the noise, all the reports, the articles, the social media buzz you shared with us, to quickly deliver the essential knowledge. We're focusing on the data points, the cautionary tales, and maybe some success stories, too.
And the stakes are genuinely, well, existential, aren't they?
Yeah.
We're looking at this brutal economic paradox that's fueling this entire debate.
Yeah.
According to Zumper data, median rents are just soaring, hitting $3,500 a month. Meanwhile, the Economic Policy Institute shows income inequality widening dramatically. The top 1%. They now capture a staggering 40% of all earnings.
And that stratification, you can measure it. The Gini coefficient for NYC sits at 0.41.
Okay, what does that mean exactly?
Well, just for context, a Gini score of 0 is perfect equality. So 0.41 signals significant structural wealth disparity.
And that disparity leaves, what, 1 in 5 residents facing actual poverty?
That's the number, and it's stark.
And when we look at the foundation, the city's economic resilience, it relies so heavily on its 200,000 small businesses.
That's right. They represent 98% of all businesses in New York.
Wow.
And their fate, it rests squarely in the balance of this whole policy discussion.
Okay, before we dive deeper, just a quick note for everyone listening. If you want great information like this regularly, please make sure you visit Mind Expansion Daily.
Definitely worth checking out.
And hey, while you're thinking about it, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button for Mind Expansion Daily. It really helps us out.
It does.
Also, if you really like what we're doing here and want to support the show, you can actually buy us a coffee. The link for that is right there in the description.
We appreciate the support.
We really do. And one more thing we challenge you. After you've heard this, leave a comment. Tell us if you agree or disagree with our summary of the topic from your sources.
Yeah, we want to hear your take.
And finally, please list the location you are from. We're trying to increase our reach worldwide. Okay. Let's unpack this, starting with the biggest flashpoint, money.
Right. And what's fascinating here is that the hallmark of these socialist proposals, this idea of progressive taxation, it's immediately put forth as the main solution.
To fund services, right?
Exactly. Specifically, the sources highlight a proposed 10% millionaire tax.
10%?
Yeah. Proponents estimate it could generate maybe $10 billion annually for critical city services. Think transit, education.
That sounds like a massive influx of cash. I mean, $10 billion.
It is.
But okay, immediately we hit the most potent counter-argument from the critics, the risk of talent flight.
The exodus fear.
NYC's current combined state and city tax rate is already, what, nearly 7% for top earners?
It's 6.95%, yeah.
So you pile another 10% on top of that. The incentive to maybe move somewhere else, it increases drastically, doesn't it?
Well, the critics certainly think so, and they cite some powerful historical data. Census data shows California's high 13.3% top rate. Well, it coincided with about 300,000 residents leaving between 2020 and 2023.
300,000.
And furthermore, migration data for New York City already shows a 50,000 net loss of residents just in 2025 alone.
So the argument is pretty simple. If you punish success, success will just relocate.
That's the argument. But, we have to be a little careful not to jump to simple causation here.
Okay.
While that census data is real, our source material also points out those losses coincided directly with the huge post-pandemic shift to remote work.
Oh, right. Good point.
So is the tax burden the primary driver, or are high earners simply seizing the opportunity to keep their, say, NYC salary while moving to a lower cost of living area? The sources don't definitively say tax is the only reason, but it's certainly presented as a massive contributing factor when you look at the economics.
That is a crucial distinction.
Right.
But, okay, taxes are only half of this economic hammer.
Right. Right.
The other half is regulation. And that hits the core engine, those 200,000 small firms we mentioned.
Precisely. Proposed stricter regulations, things like enhanced labor laws, maybe aggressive environmental mandates, could according to Chamber of Commerce estimates anyway, hike compliance costs for small businesses by up to 20%.
20%. That's huge for a small operation.
It really is. And that kind of hike, well, it deters startups in a city that's currently a real innovation hub.
Yeah, the sources point out NYC births 10% of all U.S. unicorns.
Right. And for listeners maybe less familiar, unicorns are those rare private startups valued at over $1 billion. They're potentially the future economic backbone.
Okay.
So critics fear that high compliance costs could trigger a tech exodus, maybe similar to what happened in San Francisco. About 20% of tech workers left there following regulatory hikes.
And you see this on social media too, right? Like ex-users railing. Socialism kills jobs. Look at Venezuela, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that comparison comes up a lot in the comment sections we reviewed, though maybe not the most nuanced parallel.
Fair point. So the argument is that this move towards regulation, while framed as protectionist, could actually be stagnationist. It could stall growth.
That's the core critique, yes. That the city cannot afford to alienate the talent and the capital that create the very jobs that lower-income residents desperately need.
Which leads us perfectly into the other major piece of this debate, the desperate need for affordable housing.
Yeah, if we connect this to the bigger picture, I mean, how does this affect where people live and what the neighborhoods actually look like? The pain is visible on the streets.
It really is.
We see 50,000 homeless individuals. And that number, tragically, it's up 10% just in 2025, according to the Coalition for the Homeless. That's the human cost right there.
And for the low earners who do have housing, 40% of their income is just swallowed up by rent.
40%. Imagine that.
It's a crushing burden, and that's why many advocates believe only comprehensive structural change, basically socialist policy, can fix housing inequality. You see comments like, socialism fixes housing inequality.
And the proposed solution often centers on expanded rent control. Currently, rent stabilization already covers about 1 million units in NYC.
1 million units, okay.
But the data reveals a painful paradox here.
Oh.
While rent control is definitely aimed at affordability, research from the Furman Center indicates that stabilization policies tend to shorten the overall housing supply, maybe by about 15%.
How does that work?
Well, the argument is landlords have less financial incentive to maintain properties or, crucially, to build new units if their potential rent income is capped long-term.
So, in trying to make housing cheaper for some people currently in units, you might actually be making the overall shortage worse for everyone else down the line.
It's a classic potential unintended consequence, yeah.
Wow. Okay.
And this brings us back to that unique New York quality, the culture itself. Beyond just taxes and housing, the sources raise this really profound fear of social and cultural erosion.
Yes. The fear is sort of standardization, isn't it? Like, while wealth redistribution could absolutely alleviate that G0.41 inequality we talked about,
Which is a major goal for proponents.
the policies could unintentionally standardize local institutions. The sources highlight the unique character of places like Queens, for instance. It's a neighborhood home to, 200-plus languages and cultures.
An incredible mosaic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the anxiety is that if the city's economic lifeblood, its bodegas, its small independent shops, that unique ethnic mix were somehow replaced or overly standardized by, say, state-run cooperatives or highly regulated corporate structures.
Then the intangible spirit of New York, the very thing that actually attracts global talent and tourists in the first place, could vanish.
Right. It risks a brain drain not just of wealth, but of cultural vibrancy itself. And maybe fosters dependency, although, Stockholm's safety net boasts 90% satisfaction.
It's a delicate balance.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, though. We don't have to just guess about these outcomes. We can look at some historical parallels provided in the sources.
Right. There's a stark contrast presented, a model that seemed to work and one that, stumbled.
Let's start with the success case, Stockholm.
Okay. Scandinavian nations, they often exemplify successful, sort of universalist social policies. Stockholm operates with extremely high taxes. The top rate is around 57%.
57%.
But those taxes sustain robust, universal healthcare and education systems. And crucially, they maintain a very low unemployment rate, about 2.5%, and consistently rank extremely high in global happiness indices.
So the key takeaway from Stockholm, according to the analysis, isn't just that they have high taxes,
No, it's more nuanced.
but that they have this long-standing, generational commitment to policy stability and highly efficient, low corruption implementation. The public generally trusts the system to deliver.
Exactly. Trust and stability seem key. Now, contrast that stability with a cautionary tale, perhaps much closer to NYC's regulatory scale and maybe its political climate. Barcelona.
Okay, Barcelona. What happened there?
Following their 2015 socialist push, which focused heavily on things like cooperatives and aggressive anti-eviction measures, the results were quite turbulent.
Turbulent how?
That push, which was intended to create equity, actually coincided with a stunning 21% unemployment rate.
21%. Wow.
Yeah, and significant social unrest. The analysis points not necessarily to the goals being bad, but the implementation being flawed.
Also,
It was characterized by political infighting, mismanagement, and sort of a poorly executed policy rollout that ended up alienating private investment.
okay, so the execution really matters.
Critically. And this is important context for New York City today. NYC's current unemployment is around 4.1%, according to the BLS for 2025.
Which is much healthier than 21%.
Yeah. Much. The city could potentially mirror Stockholm's stable high trust system, but it also carries that inherent risk of Barcelona's turbulence and unrest if policies are rushed or poorly executed, especially if they alienate major players like, say, Wall Street.
And you see this reflected in the social media commentary mentioned in the sources, right? Like, learn from Stockholm, not Venezuela. People are drawing these lines.
Yes, the debate online is often framed in those stark, sometimes overly simplified terms, a choice between a European-style social democracy or some kind of collapse scenario.
But the real comparison, according to the data we have, lies more in the nuances of execution and context.
Precisely. So let's quickly synthesize the two major streams of argument from the source material. Let's start with the advocacy for equity and change.
Okay, the pros side, essentially. Advocates argue those progressive taxes could immediately fund that $10 billion in services,
Right.
which they project could cut poverty by maybe 20%. They also cite the Urban Institute, claiming universal health care could save the city $100 billion yearly in things like emergency room visits and public health costs.
And on housing, they cite mandated affordable housing as really the only realistic path to ease that 50,000 homeless crisis. They see those rent control paradoxes we mentioned as maybe short-term problems or acceptable trade-offs in pursuit of a necessary greater good.
Okay, now for the critique. The fear of stagnation.
The con side, if you will.
The opposing argument warns generation of wealth creators.
And as the migration data potentially shows, high taxes drive away existing talent. That 50,000 net migration loss is a key data point for them.
Right.
Furthermore, while the official BLS 4.1% unemployment rate sounds pretty manageable, that number apparently masks a significant 20% youth underemployment problem.
20%.
Meaning, even a seemingly thriving economy is leaving a huge portion of the young population behind, underutilized. That's another point critics raise.
In the social temperature online, you mentioned it's split.
Yeah, the sources noted hashtag Socialism NYC had around 10,000 posts recently, split roughly 545 pro versus con. So it's a divided city on this.
Okay, so what does this all mean?
Yeah, bringing it together.
The conclusion drawn from the sources seems pretty clear.
Yeah.
The outcome is likely not outright destruction, but more like a reckoning.
A reckoning. I like that word here.
NYC's fundamental economic resilience, its history of reinvention, it's going to be tested by its ability to find that crucial balance. The balance between providing equity for its residents and safeguarding the economic freedom that has historically fueled its growth.
Which raises, I think, an important question. The debate seems less about the ideal, whether universal services are inherently good or bad, and far more about the implementation.
Right, the how.
Exactly. Can NYC somehow adopt the universal success and stability seen in Stockholm without suffering the turbulent pitfalls and high unemployment that plagued Barcelona's execution?
That really is the core conflict, isn't it? And maybe here's a final thought, something for you, the listener, to mull over based on everything we've unpacked. Considering the city's deep reliance on its 98% small businesses and its incredible unique cultural diversity, that ethnic mosaic we talked about, which actually risks more for New York's future. The rising inequality and the current rent crisis that exists now, or the potential unintended consequences of policies that might standardize the very culture that makes New York City unique and globally attractive in the first place.
That's a tough calculation, a powerful point of reflection.
Something for you to explore on your own. Now, just a final reminder, check out Mind Expansion Daily for more deep dives like this. Please like and subscribe. Buy us a coffee if you feel inclined, link in the description. And definitely leave us a comment with your thoughts and your location. Thank you for joining us.